As a result of the seismic events, I eventually became part of the campaign group in the Fylde, Residents' Action on Fylde Fracking, to protest against this, because by this time I'd done some research. I'd seen the devastation that they've left behind in the USA and in Australia, and bearing in mind, of course, that in the USA and Australia they've huge tracts of unpopulated land. Here in the UK it's different. In the Fylde we have a 64 square mile area of the Fylde borough, and there's 75,000 people live in that area, and they're proposing to drill something close to 3,000 wells in a 25 square mile area. And that's a very frightening prospect. Apart from anything else, it's an agricultural area. In our meetings with various individuals from Cuadrilla, Mark Miller, who was the CEO at the time of the earthquake, Eric Vaughan, who's their operations director, I believe, they call him their frack man. I've been given descriptions of how they actually build a fracking site. I've seen films of it as well. They excavate the land and they pile the soil up to be able to use that soil to reinstate the land when they've finished. And then they put down a plastic liner, like a pond liner, only thicker. On top of that liner, they then pile tons and tons of sharp limestone aggregate, which they pack down. So we're talking about a plastic liner with sharp stones being hammered down onto it and steamrolled. And then they bring all their infrastructure and the drilling rig onto the pad. The infrastructure, generators, compressors, tanks, big trucks, porter cabins, weighs thousands of tons. So we've now got all these tons of aggregate, sharp limestone, and tons of heavy equipment placed on top of it, all putting pressure on this plastic liner. They also have a pit on the site, which they say is for runoff from the site. So if they have a spillage, or if there's any rain, it supposedly runs off into this pit, and it does. But the pit itself has a liner, has an overflow that on one of the sites in our area. That overflow runs into a dike. A dike being a bit like a very, very small brook. But those dikes link up, and they pass over numerous farmers' land and drain directly into the River Ribble. On top of which, they're telling us...
A supportive tooting there.
They're telling us that this plastic liner will protect our land. But then, not only has it got sharp limestone on top of it, which could puncture it, they drill holes in it. So as soon as they drilled a hole in that plastic liner, it's completely useless. If they have a major spillage on that site, it will seep down through that limestone and it will seep into our soil. And then we'll see the same things that we're seeing in Australia and the USA. We'll see dead cattle. It'll start finding its way into the food chain. People will die of endocrine disruptive disorders and cancer. And they won't tell us what chemicals they're going to use, although Cuadrilla are saying that they're only going to use 3 chemicals. But they have a list of something like 600 that they can use. We've seen the list of 600, but they're denying that they're going to use it. And everything they do is either misleading or blatant lies.